Hello students, this is Faizan Mirza. We are discussing the topic of the mitotic cell cycle. When we're discussing the mitotic cell cycle, we need to keep in mind that this is a part of cell division. Cell division is required by the cells for the processes such as growth, repair, asexual reproduction, as well as regeneration. Now, for these processes, cell division must occur, but we need to keep in mind that there are two types of cell fundamentally, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes include bacteria only, whereas eukaryotes, these include prototis, fungi, plants, and animals. Prototis include, for example, amoeba, plasmodium. So, what's the basic difference between them? The basic difference is the presence or the absence of a true nucleus. Prokaryotes lack nucleus, whereas the eukaryotes have a nucleus. So, what happens? How do bacteria divide? Bacteria divide by binary fission. One bacteria splits into two, each then splits into two more, and so on and so forth. This is called as binary fission. The process is an example of asexual reproduction. This is a cell division which is occurring here. But cells which actually are carrying your true nucleus, they undergo cell division in such a way that cell division occurs together with nuclear division. What is nuclear division? Nuclear division can occur either by the process of mitosis or by the process of meiosis. Mitosis occur in body cells and meiosis occur in production of gametes, and in meiosis reduction division occur. This is the basic difference. In the cell, inside the nucleus or in the cytoplasm of the prokaryotes, nucleic acids such as DNA are present, and DNA and RNA are the ones which are the fundamental units which carry your inheritance patterns or traits. This is how a chromosome looks like when you look at this is a simplified structure. You can see this chromosome is having two chromatids. This is the region called as centromere where the chromatids are held together. This is called as the limb of a chromosome. And these bands are the regions where the genes are present or genes are located. At the end of each chromosome, these are the regions called as telomeres. Telomeres prevents gene loss. When the DNA is replicating, the sacrificial process occurs in the region of telomere and it fails to get replicated completely, and the resulting cell will have a shorter telomere as compared to the one which it originated from. So telomeres are present at the end of each chromosome, and since the DNA that we have, this black and yellow structure that I have drawn here, this helical structure, this is the DNA. Our DNA in the chromosomes, it is a linear DNA, and the linear DNA, its edges are exposed and they are prone to damages and prone to being losses of genes may occur there. That's why telomere, the presence of telomere, it is a repetition of several units of nucleotides which keep on repeating here, and telomeres do not have any genes. So even if they get trimmed in every nuclear division, it won't have any substantial effect on the genetic makeup of an organism. Now, when we're discussing DNA, how many DNA molecules a chromosome may have, you need to keep in mind that this chromosome at the moment is having two chromatids. This is one chromatid, this is the other chromatid. Chromatid is equals to number of DNA molecules. So always the number of chromatids will be equal to number of DNA molecules, and one DNA molecule is a double-stranded molecule having two DNA strands. So we discuss DNA molecule later in the other topic. So that's one thing that you need to keep in mind. So in this diagram, since there are two chromatid, it means there are two DNA molecules. Two DNA molecules mean there are four DNA strands. And I think that's something which is relatable. DNA, when it coils up in the form of chromatid or chromosome, basically it coils up on these cylindrical structures. These proteins are called as histone proteins. There are 8 parts of these histone protein, and then there is a linker histone present. So DNA just coils and rolls over this particular histone complex, and this entire 8 histone complex is called as a nucleosome. So there's a nucleosome, another nucleosome, and in between there's a linker DNA which is joined through which is basically joining one nucleosome to the other. This pink thing is the DNA. So the DNA coils and rolls over the nucleosome, so the DNA becomes packaged into a smaller space. When the DNA is existing in the cell during interphase, most of the time the DNA is existing as chromatin. What is interphase? We'll come to interphase gradually. Chromatin is a network or thread-like or granular appearance of the DNA, but when the DNA is about to undergo condensation, it condenses and it turns into chromatid, it forms chromosomes, and this is the structure which is why the DNA is actually combining with histone proteins. When it combines with histone proteins, this granular, this thread-like structure will turn into these forms. These DNA will still be having the same number of molecules as previously present in the chromatin. The only addition is the presence of histone proteins now. Now, when the DNA undergoes replication, the chromosome will have twice the number of chromatids, and once they get arranged along a chromosome with two sister chromatids attached at the centromere, this is the characteristic appearance that we get of a particular chromosome. So in this way, when you are discussing a chromosome, when there are two sister chromatids attached there, the DNA molecule present on one chromatid is the same as present on the other chromatid in mitosis or in most parts of the nuclear cell cycle. How many DNA molecules are there when we are talking about a human DNA, human cell? The chromatin, in when it was just chromatin, there were 46 DNA molecules present there. When the chromatin turned into this chromatid, still there were 46 chromosomes and 46 DNA molecules. But upon DNA replication, the number of DNA molecules become twice. They become 92 DNA molecules. But these 92 DNA molecules are arranged on 46 chromosomes in such a way that one chromosome will have two chromatids and each chromatid will have one DNA molecule. So one chromosome will end up having two DNA molecules, which means 46 chromosome will have 92 DNA molecules. This structure, this pie chart here shows to you the cell cycle. This is the mitotic cell cycle. You can see that it is divided into various sectors. The largest sector here is interphase. Interphase is subdivided into G1, S, and G2. After interphase comes the M phase, which is the mitotic cell division or the mitotic nuclear division, primarily not cell division, and which is followed by cytokinesis, which is actual cell division, the cell splitting into two. In G1, the DNA molecules are still 46 because this DNA exists in chromatin. In S phase, DNA replication occurs, and by the time S phase completes, the DNA molecules have become twice. So 92 DNA molecules are present by the time a cell comes into G2 phase. What happens in G1? Growth occurs, RNA, enzyme, proteins are made for various purposes inside the cell. And once these have been made, in S phase, the DNA undergoes replication. When the transition comes from the S phase to the G2 phase, the DNA is checked for errors, and when the DNA is checked for errors, if there is any error, the cell will not allow the DNA to go on further and enter the M phase. The cell division will not proceed. The mitotic cell cycle would stop here until the DNA error is corrected. And this is carried on by certain genes which are present inside the cell. These include mainly the P53 gene, which is a tumor suppressor gene. So it checks the DNA for errors. And there are some other genes as well, BRCA1, BRCA2, which are involved. If they get mutated, they are involved in breast cancer. M phase, the M stage itself is divided into four substages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. In G2 phase, tubulin is also synthesized. Tubulin, is made from microtubule. It helps in the first spindle formation. These circles that I am drawing here, these circles actually represent how a cell looks like in a particular cell cycle. So you can see that in this structure, you can see this is one cell. This is having a nucleus in the interphase. In the G1, in S phase, it's also having the nucleus and the cell is there. In G2, again, the nucleus and the cell is both are visible. When the cell enters in the mitotic phase, prophase, the nucleus and the cell are both visible, but by the time the cell comes into metaphase and anaphase, the nucleus is not visible anymore. In telophase, you can see two different nucleus present in the same cell, and in cytokinesis, the cell will split in the center and two daughter cells will be produced. Upon cell division, each cell will enter interphase once again, and the same cell cycle will resume. The stages of mitosis include mainly four stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Prophase is divided into early prophase and the late prophase. What happens in the early prophase? You can see in early prophase, this is the cell surface membrane, this is the cytoplasm, the nucleolus here. Inside the nucleolus, this is the nuclear envelope, which is still intact. The chromosome, they start to appear. Keep in mind the DNA already replicated in S phase. It is just condensing to form these kind of structures. The centrosomes replicate just before prophase, and this is what's happening in the early prophase. By the time the late prophase occurs, the nuclear envelope have disintegrated, or it is in the process of disintegration, and the nucleus is also disappearing. The chromosomes, They form identical chromatids at the sister chromatids attached to the centromere, and the centrosomes, they are moving apart, and the tubulin which they was synthesized in the G2 phase, this is also being, you can say, assembled in this way as they are moving away from one another. So when you are having the cell in this way, you can see that in this structure how many chromosomes and how many chromatids these are having. Then comes the metaphase. In metaphase, the metaphase plate forms, and the chromosome, they align along the center of the cell, and the centrioles, the centrosomes, they have moved to the poles of the cell. The spindle fiber is there, and you can see that the spindle is running from one centrosome to the other, running through the it appears to be running through the metaphase plate. Actually, it's not running through the metaphase plate. The centromere, which is present here at the center of the chromosome, in this condition here, in this region, this spindle is attached. So every chromosome centromere is attached to the spindle, and this is how the metaphase plate forms. So when metaphase has ended, the spindle fibers will retract. They will be pulled towards the centrosome from which they originated, and the chromosome will split from the centromere. When the chromosome splits from the centromere, the sister chromatids are pulled apart and they start to move on the opposite directions. This is anaphase occurring here. In the anaphase, you can see that the spindle fiber has pulled. It is moving these chromosomes away from each other. The homologous, the not the homologous, the sister chromatids. The sister chromatids have separated from one another, and you can see that these chromosomes, the centromeres, they are moving closer to the centrosomes, to the centrioles. The distance between the centrosome and its respective centromere, which it is holding, it is decreasing. So along anaphase, the distance between a centromere and its centrosome is decreasing, and the spindle fiber is just withering away. It's going down, it's breaking away. So then comes telophase. In telophase, you can see the nucleolus has reappeared, the nuclear envelope reformed, the spindle starts to break, and then comes the cytokinesis. Cytokinesis often overlap with telophase. When cytokinesis occurs, this cell, they split into two. When both the cells, they split into two, the chromosome that were condensed here, these chromosomes will start to uncoil, they will decondense, and they will once again form chromatin. Both the cells will then enter interphase. In interphase, again they will go through the same stages of G1, S, and G2. After G2, they will enter M phase and cytokinesis, and so on and so forth. This is how this goes on. Keep that in mind, that although telophase and cytokinesis are often overlapping, cytokinesis is not a part of M phase or the mitotic cell cycle. This cytokinesis is a part of cell cycle, not the nuclear division. In this diagram, you can see this is the onion cells made labeled here. You can just go through the labels, how we have identified each of these stages as telophase. This is telophase occurring here. Why? Because you can see the chromosomes, they are being pulled apart. This is the spindle, this is retracting in the center. The chromosomes have been pulled to the ends, and this is anaphase. This is being pulled there, and this is again anaphase. This is cytokinesis. You can see the cell membrane forming here, and this is something like like chromatin present here, the granular structure. These are the DNA in the prophase, and this cell is probably in interphase because the nucleus can be seen. When we are discussing the chromosome, this is how a chromosome is present. The centromere, which is present on the chromosome, this centromere is having a protein called as kinetochore. Kinetochore is the region to which the spindle fiber attaches to. When we are discussing how they form, you can see these are the DNA molecules. When these DNA molecules, this is the DNA molecule, this is the copy of the same DNA molecule on the chromosome. These are the sister chromatids. I already told you that number of chromatids is equal to number of DNA molecules. So when these spindle fibers, they pull apart, the microtubules shorten. It pulls the kinetochore, it pulls the centromere towards the centriole. The centriole would be somewhere here. This centriole would be somewhere here, and the chromosome will split from the center, and the DNA molecule will be equally divided. In plant cells, centrioles are not present. It doesn't mean that the plant cells do not divide. Plant cells divide, but they are carrying out the division at a much slower rate. They use MTOCs for this process. MTOCs are microtubule organizing centers. They function in a very similar way as centrioles, but they cannot be seen as distinct structure inside the cells. The next area we are discussing are stem cells. Stem cells can divide unlimited number of times, and they always divide by the process of mitosis. When they are dividing by the process of mitosis, this is how a stem cell is present. A stem cell may divide to form, it will always divide to form another stem cell. and the other cell will develop into a cell which will mature and become a differentiated cell, and it will start to perform a specialized function. On the basis of potency, we say the stem cells could either be a totipotent stem cell, it could be a pluripotent stem cell, or it could be a multipotent stem cell. So what is potency? What is potency? Potency is basically the extent of the ability that a stem cell possesses to produce different cell types. On the basis of potency, we say that the stem cell could either be a totipotent stem cell, a stem cell that can produce any type of cell. For example, zygote up to a stage of 16 cell division is a totipotent stem cell. It can form embryonic stem cell, that can form placenta. Both are two different type of cells, and they both have specialized function, and they both are specialized cells arising from totipotent stem cells only. Embryonic stem cells can then grow on to become to differentiate into pluripotent stem cell, which can then further form multipotent stem cells. As the cells are dividing, they keep on losing their potency, and when they are losing their potency, the pluripotent stem cells can still divide to form various structures of parts of the cell tissues. You can pluripotent stem cells can form kidney cells, or probably digestive tract cells, or skin cells. But when they become multipotent means that they will have some restrictions now. For example, multipotent stem cell in the bone marrow, they can produce the cells which are present in the blood, but they cannot go on to produce your renal cells or kidney cells, or they cannot go on to produce your skin cells. Similarly, you will have stem cells in your skin. So the upper surface of the skin, as it sloughs off, the newer cells which are present as stem cells in the deeper layers of the skin, they keep on dividing and they keep on producing new cells. So stem cells are basically present in every tissue of the body, so that new cells can form. And whenever a stem cell will divide to form a stem cell and another cell which will differentiate to form a specialized cell. The last thing that we have to discuss is cancer. We need to keep in mind a definition or the main concept behind a carcinogen. A carcinogen is a mutagen that can cause a mutation, and that mutation in turn can cause cancer. So a normal cell, this is the normal cells. When carcinogens, they cause mutation. These include UV light, tar and tobacco, smoke, asbestos, or X-rays. They can transform oncogenes. Now, to understand the concept of oncogenes, we need to understand what proto-oncogenes are. Proto-oncogenes are normally present in the cell, and they prevent the cells from cancer. For example, P53, for example, BRCA1, BRCA2. These are the ones which are susceptible to become mutated. And if they become mutated, we say oncogenes have become transformed. When they become transformed, that means that they cannot protect the cell from tumors anymore. So in this way, the cell will start to divide rapidly by mitosis. Immortal cell will be made. These immortal cells will not be killed by the immune system. When they are dividing, they will start to divide in unequal numbers of cells will be produced. You can see that these are not equal number of cells. These cells will be of different sizes, and they are not dividing like 2, 4, 6, 8, 16, so on and so forth. They will be dividing in a different way. So an unequal number of cells will be produced there. At times, the cell, this tumor which is forming here, it may surround itself in a capsule, and it will form a tumor. All cancers are not, or tumors are not encapsulated. They all do not have capsules, but most of them do have the capsules there. The tumor is in the tissue where it began, so we say that this is a primary tumor. This primary tumor will start to get its own blood vessel, its own lymphatic vessel. It will start to get all the nutrients from these lymphatic supply and the blood supply. When the tumor cells are dividing here, some of the tumor cells can just slough off from this primary site. They will enter into the bloodstream through the blood vessel or the lymphatic vessel in the lymph, and they start to travel in the lymph or in the blood vessel. So when they are traveling in the blood or in lymph, they will be deposited at distant sites in the body. When they deposit the distant sites in the body, secondary tumor starts to grow. We say that the tumor is malignant, or metastasis have occurred. Metastasis refers to this cancer being spread. Basically, we divide cancer as either it might be a malignant cancer or a benign cancer. A malignant cancer is one which can move from a primary tumor to a secondary tumor. Like a primary site, from its primary site can go on and spread throughout the body in various parts of the body. It can start to grow in different regions of the body by spreading through blood and lymph. Whereas benign tumor, they do not spread. This doesn't mean that the benign tumors are not fatal. Benign tumors, brain tumor is an example of a benign tumor, and it's actually fatal. That's it for now. Thank you so much.